Honourable Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for allowing me to direct this question without notice to the Prime Minister. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the 2022 national elections were chaotic. The common roll was not complete, and many of our people did not exercise their constitutional rights to vote under a free and fair environment. Our claim that PNG is a democratic country is demonstrated by the way we as leaders are voted into this House. And if there are problems associated with our voting system, we must fix those problems before the next elections in 2027. On this side of the House, we do acknowledge that the government has established a special parliamentary committee on the 2022 national general elections. And we are grateful because this is a bipartisan approach to inquire into and report on the conduct of the 2022 national general elections. Through you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, my question to the Prime Minister is, Prime Minister, do you have a specific time frame that you expect the Special Parliamentary Committee to complete its works so that we can get into the serious business of reforming and tightening up our electoral laws in Papua New Guinea? 2, while we appreciate the setting up of the Special Parliamentary Committee, and while we have respect for the members of the committee, the truth is we are the same affected party. And so I would like to go one step further and ask the Prime Minister if we could consider an additional independent process free of biasness. So many of us sitting on the committee and over here in Parliament, we are affected by those electoral laws and the biasness and everything that's happening to our electoral system. And therefore, we are considering and asking for consideration if there would be an independent process free of this biasness to be also included as part of the review process. And number 3, Prime Minister, you have been hinting at the use of biometric voting system in the 2027 national general elections. So does the government have plans to roll out the NID system nationwide to move this nation towards a biometric system of voting? Will funds be made available for this NID rollout program starting 2023 budget and the subsequent years to come to achieve this? Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Let me appreciate the opposition leaders' very, very important questions. The process of vote to entrench our democracy is something, a gift this generation of leaders and this parliament can pass on to the next generation, and I'm happy to respond to this question in a positive manner. The issue on the parliamentary committee we've established is a bipartisan parliamentary committee. We want them to be at work. We will give them full funding to, from an arm's length perspective. The opposition members and government members together could take a holistic review into what has happened in 2022, as well as what has happened in 2017, 2012, 2007, go back to the entire process and try to cover and put an informed, fact-based suggestion for us to go forward into a new voting process, a new process that also generates how we conduct elections in 2027 and beyond. There's an important election that is also coming up, Mr. Deputy Speaker. that is the election of our LLG presidents. So in response to what is the time we're looking at, in as much as possible, if the committee could establish, and we as a government don't want to influence the committee's independence of work. The committee is given freedom to look at the terms of reference. On a general upside, we're saying look at what happened in 2022 and the elections previously. And so the committee is at total liberty to establish the terms of reference, because it's a committee that is filled by members on the opposite as well as members in the government side. That work, they could almost go to work right away. From a desktop work, establish the template, what needs to be done, as well as a detailed work that should be started ASAP and run really an exhaustive work in early part of 2023. We will consider the suggestion for an independent presence or a process also. That is very much welcomed because this is not a matter that belongs to just myself or one or two. It is something, as I said earlier, a gift our leadership could give to the next generation, secure a better voting process in 27 and beyond. In fact, one of the benchmarks that we've set is 2025 and beyond. As a nation lives beyond 50 years of independence, this sort of thing could be a better stage for them, especially when it deals with election and election of leaders for parliament. It is a very serious business. We should better the process. And the overall time frame, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm looking at, by 2025, we would have arrived at that process clearly, whatever it is. And that, as a government, we have a view on the NID process, the biometric process that should assist us. But I want to allow the independent process to really establish what needs to be done, so that it's seen that it is coming from whole of parliament approach, and also assisted by our people in community who can be represented in the independent process that the opposition leader is alluding to. Biometric, certainly, from government perspective, we look at biometric and NID based. So by 2027, there is no block voting, clan voting, individual, double voting, etc. One person, one vote can be arrived at in 2027. I think that is the basic, in a sort of succinct manner. That is the basic target we're looking at. And next year, we will start the process of census. We will do a deep census next year and on into 2024, so that by 2025, our nation is totally settled on our population. And we're looking at a country where you are a known person living in a country, not a person non grata. You're a real person living in a country, and the ID system, whether it's a physical ID or a biometric biometric-based ID, these are things we're looking at not only for voting, but for law and order, for business registration, for SME program. These are matters that we as government are proposing, but specifically relating to the voting process. We, as government, will hold back our commentary and get this committee to recommend to us, and certainly the consideration of our independent team to also work with this committee can be looked at, and by 2023, the proposal should have matured to a submission level that should come to government for implementation. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.